A very warm welcome back to the fourth video in the series on Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. So in the first video, we looked at which world you're most at ease with. Are you focused on more on the outside world or on the inside world? So that gives you your E or your I. The second video we looked at was which filter or which way do you get information coming in from the outside in. So is it through your intuition, which is N? This is the looking for patterns, connecting dots, looking at the meaning. Or are you S, more relying on your senses, facts, evidence, and data? Now, the third question is whether you're a thinker or a feeler. And this is how you make your decisions. Yeah? And then finally, today we're going to look at the last letter. Now, some people say this is how you live your life, it's to do with your lifestyle, but actually it's really a tricky one. Because if you're a J type, this means you're a judger. It doesn't mean you're judgmental, but what it means is that you prefer to use your judging function. So that function will be more obvious in your personality. You'll use it more. So your decisions based on feeling or based on thinking, whichever it is, that will be the thing that you operate from first. You like to be more decisive. Now, if you're a P type, a perceiver, sometimes it's called prospector. This means you prefer to use your second function, meaning how you get information through the senses or through your intuition. So you will like to keep getting more and more and more information, leave your options open, and not be so decisive. So this can be about people, about events, about anything. You prefer to be more open-ended and not come to a conclusion. Whereas the J types are more quick to want to come to a conclusion. So when you've got these 4 letters and it gives you this 4-letter code, that will actually help you to understand which cognitive functions are operating within your type, which will make a lot more sense when we get on to video 5 and continuing. But today I really want to look into helping you decide on this last letter. It's a tricky one. So are you a judger or are you a perceiver? So stereotypically, and I say stereotypically because I know lots of P's and J's who don't always fix their mold and fit their mold. And I think this is because we all have all functions, and it can also depend on your circumstance, which one you might have to use in your job, which might strengthen that. But we're going to look at like the stereotypical behavior of a J type. So a J type preferring to use their judging functions, their thinking and feeling and making up their mind about things. But what that essentially looks like in terms of lifestyle is that J types are known to kind of know what they want and stick to a plan and work step by step to get things done. They're often a lot better at sticking to routines. They're kind of known for being reliable, disciplined. They're sort of get the job done and then we can have fun type of characters. J-type also tend to work in a more sequential, orderly way. I mean, stereotypically, they're known for being tidy and liking everything to be orderly and in control. I think that's one of the things that does stand out about the J-type is they do function better when they have enough time to plan ahead and arrange everything. They're really good at that. So if they have a holiday, they'll think ahead where they're going to be and they'll pack for it and they'll have an itinerary. And that is often their gift. However, when things don't go to plan, that's often when they can get really stressed because they're not so good at being impromptu and improvising and going with the flow, which is really the speciality of the P types. So again, remember, what is a P type? It's someone who prefers their perceiving functions, which is taking in information. So the P type, you could be P for procrastination, because they tend to put things off. At least that's certainly what it looks like to a J type. But often what they're doing is they're waiting to get more information or to see what the lay of the land is like closer to the moment of having to make a decision. So J types are very comfortable sort of scheduling you in for a rendezvous next week. But the P type, as soon as it's fixed in the diary, begin to feel a little bit shut in. And that's because they don't know what's going to come up. They like to go with the flow. They like to take opportunities as they come, and their priorities are often shifting. They're often sort of juggling things. Of course, to the J, this would look like chaos and not the way to achieve goals. But the P type go about things in a weird and wonderful way. So a P type is likely to say to you, okay, well, we can put that in the diary for next week, but let's check in with each other in the morning to see how we feel. Or some extreme P types is like, okay, let's call each other just before we're meant to meet to see if we're really up to it, because they really do work best when they're able to follow their inner flow and inspirations and moods. So they love starting projects. They're not known as the best person at completing them orderly in time, because often they're very inspired to start loads of different things at the same time. And so there's that juggling and sometimes dropping the ball. But when they do get inspired and they're in the right mood, they often can achieve a lot. They can often make really random connections with people and be at the right place at the right time because of their ability to be spontaneous and improvise. So a kind of a job that would suit the P type would be something like one P type I knew was a logistics manager for movies. So every time a different location, different demands, changing all sorts of crises and changing needs, and P types thrive on that, solving problems in the moment. The J type would be very good at maybe organizing the logistics up to the on-site sort of phase of the project. They'll be very good at doing that. But at the time when there's so much chaos and last minute and changes, that will feel quite stressful to the J types. They won't feel like they can use their strengths. They'll feel in the P world, they'll feel quite stressed. Just like in the J world of orderly routine and plans and sticking to things, the P type will really feel confined. So yeah, the P type tend to, well, they're known to be pressure prompted. So of course that would look like procrastination, but often what's happening within that process. So for instance, if I had to write an article or give a speech on a particular topic, so if I'm a J type, because I don't work best under pressure, I'd likely to start thinking about it and writing notes and planning well ahead, having time to practice it. But as a P type, I'm much more likely to put it off. I'll be doing other things I'm more interested. In the back of my mind, I'll still be ticking away around the subject, picking up analogies and examples and going, oh, I can use that. But I won't structure it. I'm likely to trust in my ability to put it all together just in time. In fact, that feels like a much more comfortable way to work for P types. So you can see that certainly some jobs would suit J types better and sub jobs suiting P types better. In fact, I remember doing a course once this was a big group of all men, all Arabs from the Gulf region, and all engineers working for petrol companies. And I did their types. They were all J types, which was no surprise. Any job that needs that consistently turning up on time, routine, especially anything looking after like health and safety, or things that really need consistent, reliable, detailed commitment. J types are the ones that would be able to do that. But one of the guys in the course said to me that his brother was definitely a P type. And he said he's never had a 9 to 5, and yet he's the most wealthiest in the family because he just seems to know when to take an opportunity, or he just seems to meet the right people at the right time. And so that entrepreneurial ability to take opportunities when they come up, or to go with the flow, or change direction quickly, that sort of flexibility that an entrepreneur often needs really does suit the P type, especially if they can get a J type to assist them. So the two types do actually work together well. Now, I'll show you a diagram which is a little bit funny, but a little bit true, and it's supposed to be about the different way that the P and the J approach achieving a goal. So you can see with the J type, there's the deadline, they set milestones and they start early on. So they have that sense of control, keeping on top of it, and able to do their best work in a calm, kind of orderly way. Whereas if we look at the P type, they will procrastinate. So often what they'll be procrastinating. So let's use an example of, let's say that at 3 o'clock I have an appointment, and then my plan for the morning up to that appointment is to reorganize all my bedroom cupboards. Yeah. So if that's a J type, they will often have a to-do list, and they'll make a sort of a plan for this goes to the thrift shop, this goes into storage, I'll clear the bed out, I'll ask my partner to walk the dog so the dog doesn't keep coming in and annoying me. And they'll have this overview and they'll kind of stick to the plan. And they'll probably finish it with a bit of time to have a cup of tea and relax and get ready and be on time for their appointment. Now, what would happen with the P type in the same scenario is that possibly the first hour will be spent on Pinterest getting inspiration for cupboard organization and minimalism. And that's because often P types work well when they have a sense that it's a project and they can use their creativity. They're not really good at maybe like maintaining the order of that cupboard every day, but they'll love the process of doing something with it. So they'll like look for mood boards and get their inspiration, and then they'll begin. But, you know, they might go to get the broom, and on the way notice that the plant needs watering, and then go and water it. And then something will remind them of a phone call which they need to make. And so they'll never just kind of stick step by step at doing something. They'll often get quite distracted. And then at some point their deadline brain kicks in. And because they love that pressure, they'll do it. Probably won't get time for a relaxed cup of tea, but they'll rush and they will make the meeting, even if it's a little bit late, but they'll be there. So to the J type, that seems like a very chaotic, inefficient way to work. But for the P type, they'll enjoy it. They'll do it, you know, really well and creatively. And they'll get other things done which they need to get done. So they'll have a sense of, well, job well done, I'm happy with the way I work. Not J-type's way at all. So neither are better than the others. They're just quite different ways of approaching time and playing to their strengths. So I think P-types definitely work better with motivation, with being pressurized at the last minute to do something when they're in the right mood. So they'll often do other things until they get the motivation or when they have to do it. And so that does work in sort of industries or in when they're self-employed. They do have to often work on discipline when they're working with the outside world. And of course, the J types do have to work on going with the flow and trusting a bit more so that they don't get so stressed out when things don't go to plan, because they don't always go to plan. So, each type has got their own lessons around that function. And any type that goes into the extreme of only relying on that function are going to look a little bit dysfunctional. So a J type, if they're very insecure, will overcompensate by wanting everything under control, everything orderly, everything in its place, or otherwise I feel really stressed out. And likewise, the P type in extreme, you just won't be able to tie them down. You'll never know where they are. They'll work when they're in the mood, but they may not be consistent. They'll look like a bit chaotic. It's quite good if you're not sure which type you are to ask a friend what they think, because they might have a better view of how do you fit in with the general public. Because I know some people think, oh, I'm so messy, and they go to the house and you're thinking, on which planet is that messy? Yeah, and sometimes people think, oh, I'm so go with the flow, but not as much as they may think. Yeah, so you're looking to sort of judge your type by the general, I guess, population. I know P types, especially traveling artists, musician types, who will never know where they're going to be next week. They'll just go to the next spot and then look around to see what's the scene in that spot and then decide where they're going next. And it's really hard. People like that will say, yeah, I'll be staying with you next week, and you'll be all prepared, and then next month they might turn up. So P types in the extreme can be really challenging, especially for J types, but anyone who's trying to organize their life with lots of P types in it will get really frustrated that they can't stick to a plan, or they're so impromptu and so go with the flow that you can't organize anything. But also I've been with J types. I'll tell you a little anecdote and hope that friend doesn't listen to this video, but I'd taken this friend who's a J type hiking with their husband here in Mount Abu. And I told her that the walk was 20 minutes. Now, no, I should start at the beginning. The taxi that we got to the hiking spot, I missed the entrance and we went too far and ended up, taxi's gone and we're in the middle of nowhere. However, we managed to find a driver, but the car belonged to a muni. So this is someone who's never speaks, like a sadhu. And he's not spoken for 25 years. He's quite famous in the mountain. And so this guy got the sadhu to agree that we could use his car to drop us back. Now, already to my mind, it's oh, this is making the trip much more interesting and adventurous. But to my J friend's mind, this is chaos. This is, oh God, she doesn't know what she's doing. So then I tell her that the walk is 20 minutes, but we're a little bit slower. And after 25 minutes, she explodes on me and starts shouting, you said it was 25 minutes, where are we? I know we're lost. And I was like, don't worry, have faith, it's all under control. And she relaxed. But that sort of sense that, when things, what I would consider adventurous fun, it makes the trip much more interesting if you get lost. To a J mind who's calculating, maybe we don't have enough water, or we're going to be late back, or, it's not comfortable for their type. They really do prefer when things go according to the plan in their mind. And so you can see how the types can sometimes have issues with each other. Okay, so I hope that's clear enough. I hope that you can work out which one that you are. like I've said with all the other letters, if you're not sure, kind of leave it open, but take your best guess, and then you can later on explore the 3 or 4 types that fit with the different letters. As I've said before, when you do get the right type, so for instance, an ENFP and an ENFJ, although there's only 1 letter difference, are actually using completely different cognitive functions. So when you read the descriptions of those types, even though it's only 1 letter difference, there'll be really different types, and you'll be definitely resonating with one more than the other. So yeah, so in the next video, I will start to explain how the cognitive functions work and how, based on your 4 letters, your code, you'll be able to work out which ones you're using in which position. And in the following videos, we'll go into the cognitive functions so you can really appreciate how interesting they all are and how they work in our consciousness, how they work especially when you've got them as a strength, but also when you have them as a weak point, how that might manifest. So stay tuned as we go deeper into this interesting Myers-Briggs typology indicator to understand a little bit about how our personality functions. So thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.